I started a lettings company and then I did what's called rent to rent.
Yeah.
Basically, you approach a landlord and you offer them a certain amount of rent. So let's say it's a 4-bed house, you offer them £500 per month. And I know that if I let the rooms individually, I can probably make another £500 per month.
So it was...
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to CEOCAST. I'm your host Raheem, and today, after very high demand from a lot of you guys, we have finally got someone from the property market. I am with Anthony Laville. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm a good man. It's good to be in Birmingham. Good to see you. So, for the people who don't know exactly what you do, what is it?
I'm a property developer.
Yeah.
I develop, I take sites from pre-planning, so having no planning at all, take it through planning permission, and then build them out and rent them out.
Okay, so is it mainly, because you've done a podcast before with Jamal from Dream Chasers podcast.
Yeah.
Now, is it only student accommodation that you do?
No, I do. So student accommodation are the ones that are under construction now. I've
Yeah.
got 2 student accommodation sites. But I've got a few coming in, mixed use schemes, commercial, co-living. So it's a range really.
Yeah. Okay, so let's work on a timeline basis here. So how old are you right now?
31.
31. So you're 31 now. When did you get into all of this?
Started property 10 years ago. It's about the age of 2021. And the large development projects I started working on about 3 years ago.
How did you manage to get into it at 20 years old?
20, I was at university.
A lot of people want to know that.
Sorry?
A lot of people would want to know how did someone get into it at 20 years old?
Yeah, fine. So I was studying at uni, Leicester Uni, and worked out there was demand for student accommodation. I basically went on a viewing and spoke to the landlord, and basically after the viewing I said to them, look, I can find you students. I knew she had other houses and she was looking to let them, so I said I can find you other students. She said yes, and took it from there. Started cold calling other landlords.
Yeah.
Finding them online and their adverts and cold calling them just to let them know, oh look, I've got a student tenant find service. Would you be interested in letting your property? And I got a general good response because you don't want an empty property, do you? Trying to get it let, trying to get tenants in. So it kind of started from there.
So what were you, a uni student at the time as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so you took the initiative to. What made you want to do that though? Like, were you living out into a uni accommodation yourself?
Yeah, I was living away. I was in student accommodation. It was sort of my end of the first year, securing accommodation for second year. So what made me want to do it? I've always tried to make a bit of money.
Yeah.
On the side, so it was just a way I thought I could make some money, and I thought there was a demand for it.
For someone who wants to do the same sort of thing, along the same lines, what you essentially did was get into property without putting the money down for property. Am I right? As in, like, you don't have to purchase the whole building.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I started a lettings company and then I did what's called rent to rent.
Yeah.
Basically, you approach a landlord and you offer them a certain amount of rent. So let's say it's a 4-bed house, you offer them £500 per month. And I know that if I let the rooms individually, I can probably make another £500 per month.
Did you have people lined up to take the rooms already?
Well, I started as a proper lettings agent, so a management agent. So I basically found students for landlords and charged them a fee, or I found students and managed the property for the landlord. So I'd get a fee for finding students and a fee for managing it.
Yeah.
And then I found out about rent to rent, where I could take the property myself, take a lease with the landlord, and instead of making 10% management fee, I could make 500 quid, a chunk, half of the rent basically. Obviously there's bills. To be fair, the way I did it was the students took care of the bills, and whoever the tenants were took care of the bills.
Yeah.
So it was a good and quick way to get into property without any money. So you'd find a house, offer a rent to the landlord for 3 to 5 years, and then you run around
Sublease it basically.
for it. Yeah, exactly.
No, fair enough. So then, let's just can we talk figures about that roughly?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a bit of a blur, but I like.
Okay, so
I can give you some examples.
Yeah. So just to put it in perspective, let's just say you rented a 5-bedroom house.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much would the rent for that whole 5-bedroom house cost?
What I would pay the landlord.
Yeah.
For on a 5-bed, let's say £700 I'd pay.
Yeah, see, Birmingham's mad compared to London. London 5-bedroom house, you're looking at about £2,000. But anyway, besides the point. So then now you rent out each room.
Yeah, so I used to either get groups of students or rent the rooms out individually. And let's say I rented it for £300 a room.
Okay, so £300 a room, that's £1,500 a month.
Yeah.
So your profit take there is, how much did you say for the whole house? Roughly about
700.
700. So you're looking at about
800 profit.
800 profit. Yeah, fair enough. So that's how you got into that.
So obviously there's maintenance and stuff that comes out afterwards.
Yeah.
On most of the ones I didn't include bills on them. So the tenants took care of the bills. And so it was about that. Minus a bit of maintenance here and there. So it was good compared to management and me getting a small fee of maybe 100, 150 quid.
Yeah.
Per month. I was getting, 600, 700 and it adds up when you get a few.
So how old were you when you took that decision to do that instead?
That would have been probably 2 years in. So I was probably 23, 24. Probably closer to 23.
What did it feel like to be 23, 24 years old and doing that sort of thing?
It was just normal to me. I was doing it anyway. When I was doing management and lettings, I was dealing with the tenants. I was letting them. It was exactly the same job for me.
Yeah.
Or only I made more money.
The only difference.
Took more risk.
Yeah, because you essentially got to rent the whole property for 5 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if I don't get tenants, then I've got to pay basically.
Yeah.
Or the company that I've set it up in is responsible. But ultimately, it's my responsibility.
Have you had situations like that?
I struggled to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Definitely had situations where there was periods where I struggled. I'm not proud of it. I'm just honest. But definitely situations where there were periods where we struggled with occupancy. And so there were periods where then I'd have to stop absolutely everything and just focus on getting them let. And so I got to a point where I had to get creative, really dressing the rooms and presenting the whole thing properly and just putting a lot of focus into it. And then I'd get occupancy back and then reinvest the money into improving the houses, like putting in new kitchens and stuff and carpets and sprucing up new furniture. And then it just kept it a bit more consistent. So it's important to invest it back into your business. So whilst also paying yourself, I think you should pay yourself.
100%, yeah. So just to throw it back a bit, you started that when you were about 23, 24, yeah? Now, when it came to you making that transition from management to now leasing the whole building, essentially, how did you know that it was going to work?
Because I was a letting agent.
Yeah.
I was already letting and managing the same properties and similar properties in the same areas.
So the same people you had for the renting for the rooms, were they the people that you were managing already?
No, there'd be different people. But I understood the market. I understood that what property was needed for the demographic. I understood how much money I could make and therefore the risks involved and how to manage them. I learned that from the management side of things. Yeah. And having made some mistakes on that as well, being a new business. So I'd done all of that. So when it came to me taking responsibility, I didn't have any worry. I was actually happy to because I could make more money on less houses.
Fair enough. And this is where things get interesting. So that's what you've done in the past. Do you still do that now?
No.
Okay, so what do you do now?
I've got buy-to-lets, but my main thing is development. My focus, my goal is to create a substantial portfolio from the ground up and own and manage that. So the first ones that are in the construction, the big deals, it took a while to come through because it takes a while to get planning and then you've got to do the rest of the pre-contract stuff before you get into bed with a contractor. So that all takes a while.
So when did you get into that?
I got into that in around 2017.
2017, yeah?
Started maybe just before then. Around 2017, into the big stuff. So I was already in property, understood
you
the
were
market.
about 27 years old?
Yeah.
Okay, 27 years old. So you're 27 years old and now you decided to take on developments. Now it's not any ordinary development.
Well, actually, I decided before then. So it took me a little time. I probably decided about 25-ish. Okay. I knew it was coming. And then I probably made a decision at the end of 25, early age of 26. And then I had to start, I didn't want to sell the business. I probably should have worked out to sell it, but I just wanted out. So I just started to wind things down and hand back a bunch of properties and refusing a new business. And it took a bit of a strain financially, in fairness, because how was I going to fund myself? Do you know what I mean? I was making good money doing that. Yeah. Really good money. So then the problem I had was it was a cycle. You'd take the property in from a landlord, for say 3 years, make that money in between, that's 700 quid or a grand or whatever it was, well more on some of them, and the end of the lease will come. That landlord's not going to spend money on refurbing the property. You've got to do it, and during that period, you haven't benefited from any capital appreciation or paying down any debt that you have on that property. So it's just cash flow. And so I got to a stage where I thought, you know what, I'm ready to build some wealth now.
Yeah.
That was not going to get me wealthy. Good cash flow, and I can take the funds and pull it elsewhere. But I wanted to have my investments in property, so that's when I said, all right. And I'd managed bigger blocks. One of the bigger rent-to-rents I did generated about £8,500 a month profit on a block. So that was decent, and I was already profitable. So that was like, I would say free, but I didn't require any more costs. I already had staff members.
So colleagues. when you're managing this block, is that when you realise that, you know what, I need to start?
That was it.
When you're developing blocks.
It was like I'm running around managing these properties when the blocks were easier to manage.
How so? Because the blocks
because all the tenants are in there. There's 39 tenants in that block, opposed to 5 tenants in that house, 6 tenants in that house, 8 in that house. There's 39 tenants, and so during that process of running it, I was like, you know what, this is a lot easier to deal with these 39 here than it is
going
whatever,
everywhere.
50 elsewhere or 39 elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so I knew it had to be a building, and but it's a lot of money to buy one that's already operational. So I thought the best way and the cheapest way is for me to build them.
Yeah.
And so then as I transitioned out of that, I transitioned into looking for sites. And
fair enough. Let's talk about your first purchase then, for the big deals only is what you like to call yourself as well. So where did that whole thing, big deals only, come about from?
This would have been after I started doing all this stuff. It's more of a mindset thing.
Yeah.
So it's like a reminder to myself, in fairness, and I pull it out there just to let other people hear it as well. But it's more about reminding myself to push my limits, and that I should be only working on big things for me. So, you know, if you've never done a property deal before, a 5-bed property deal is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
That's big deals only for you. Do you know what I mean? Now I'm working on the projects I'm doing. I should be stepping up, which I've got in my pipeline, but I should be stepping up to why am I not doubling the size of the deal? So it's a reminder, just big deals only. Focus on the bigger stuff that pushes you outside of your comfort zone.
We'll ask you about your big deal that you've got currently going on right now later on throughout the podcast. But so going back to when you first bought your first building, what did you buy? The building or bought a piece of land?
There was a building there,
yeah,
but we had to demolish it.
Oh, why is that?
Because we wanted a new building.
Was that more of a, like, it has to be done like for the market, or more of like, you know, I just want it to look nice sort of thing?
The building wasn't suitable to be converted into accommodation.
Yeah.
It wasn't suitable, but it was in a good location.
Oh, so what was the building existingly?
Just an industrial building.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't even flats or anything like that?
No, it was just, I think it was like an ex-warehouse type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then building was split into lettings for churches.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very nice building. So it was let, and it had church tenants in there on different floors, but it wasn't a very nice building. It had to go, and it was not suitable to be converted into accommodation at all.
So you decided to knock the whole building down?
Yeah, we had to. So when we put the plans together, it was just pretty obvious that we had to design a new build. The area worked, and so it was more about what you could do on that site.
Yeah.
And we worked out, we could build a bunch of student accommodation.
Is that one built already, I guess?
No, that's also under construction as well.
Oh, so that's still undergoing?
So there's 2 under construction at the moment. That one's 70 flats. Although when we first got planning, it was less, but we've got 70 flats now. So that's a £8 million deal. And the second one is 48, a £6 million deal. It just takes a while to pull them off.
How do you value it at £8 million? What makes it an £8 million deal?
That's what it's worth once it's done. Once
the
it's
whole
built and
building
let, that's a £8 million project. That's building with 70 flats.
Okay, so then, and that would be the same thing. Just rent out each flat, or would you just flip them?
No, rent it out. The whole building, once finished, is under my ownership.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sell the flats individually. If I sell it, I'll sell the whole building for £8 million or whatever it's worth at the time. Could be less, could be more. But then I'd sell the whole building, and then just with all of them.
So you demolished this building. How much did that building originally cost that you demolished?
That building was, I got planning first, and it was £400,000.
Sorry, how much?
400,000.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, like
That
I said,
was-
compared to London, you're...
Well, I had to get planning.
Yeah.
If you include the worth of planning, it was closer to, in the end, 1.5 mil.
Seriously? Okay,
With
so
planning.
that's a big jump.
Massive jump.
Yeah. So then with planning 1.5 mil, and the building hasn't even started yet.
Yeah. Now it started.
Yeah.
At the time.
No. So 1.5 mil in, and it hasn't started the build yet.
No, we've started construction now. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, we bought it for 400,000.
Yeah.
Once we had planning, so we got planning first, and as soon as we got planning permission, so we took the cost of getting planning at our risk, myself and my partner on it,
Yeah.
and then we bought it. But at the point it had planning, it jumped up in value.
Yeah, obviously it would though, because other buyers then know that okay, it's got planning to
It's
do
got
it.
planning permission. Yeah, the planning is for that piece of land, so
Yeah.
that you've got to attach a value to the worth of that with planning permission in place. But it's one of the reasons why the seller tried to pull out of the deal once we got planning.
Yeah, obviously it
Worked
would.
out the jump in value and was like, hang on, I'm not selling this, but we had legal contracts in place.
So once you
gets
got
to
your
that.
planning, he had to sell the building,
Yeah, we had that agreement to begin with.
Okay.
We're going to do this, and if I get planning, I'm buying it.
and he had no option but to.
Well, I had to.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's part of the agreement.
So
He
now,
was only trying to pull out to try and make more money, but devious, really.
yeah, fair enough. So now you've basically that building's from the ground up, which you guys would see hopefully soon on the channel as well. We're gonna do like a tour sort of thing. So now that's done. Oh, that's not done yet, is it?
No, there's two, they're both under construction.
So when did you buy
Takes
them?
some time. Sorry?
What year did you buy them?
70 flat one,
Yeah,
that was 2018.
2018. So that's 2 years, and that's not done yet.
I mean, I started on it in 2017.
Okay, you started in
So
2017.
we've had a bunch of delays
Yeah.
in terms of.
I'm guessing the big one being Corona.
No, it wasn't so much that. It was more we had delays in the previous years. So we had delays with not starting quick enough the process. We had delays with there were some party wall issues. We had delays with the way the building was designed. It wasn't very efficient. So we had to go back into planning again with a new planning application.
Yeah.
And that took time. So there's a bunch of things just delayed it. And we've got to deliver it in time for the student year.
Yeah.
So you want to deliver it, have it ready by September. So if you're not able to do it by September,
You got to wait until next September.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's where the problem is. So if you're late, you miss it, and you've got to then move on to the. You got to wait, and so you can either build it and have an empty building, which is very expensive to do, especially if you're getting development finance on it, or you can wait.
Yeah.
So most people just wait if you miss the year.
So then what about like, obviously 70 building flat. So 70 flat building, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, let's just say the building's done today. Do you still have to wait until September until
Yeah.
you can put tents
But it's
in?
never going to be done that quickly, is it? It's a long process.
No, of course not. So
but
let's
you'd
just-
have to wait. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you could start to let it and find students, but if you can't find them.
But then in the meantime, wouldn't you be able to let it to people who just want accommodation?
No, it's only got planning permission for students. So one of the conditions on student accommodation normally is that you can only rent it to students.
Okay, I didn't know that even student planning permission exists.
Yeah, it's sui generis, so it's not specific to students, but it's under that category.
Yeah.
But when you put that in, they normally restrict occupation to students.
Okay. So then, in someone in your position, why would you take on the, like, well, I don't want to say headache, but you know, there's a lot of risk factor there of maintaining the property and having that still in your hands when you can potentially have an £8 million deal to go through.
Yeah.
Why would you prefer to do the long run game rather than, I've got £8 million in my pocket tomorrow just by selling the whole building?
Sell it. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be £8 million because there's debt on there in the
Yeah.
bank, but there's a few million. I've got a partner. So it's because my intention is not only to create a good and well-known development brand, but also an operator brand. So if I can create a really good, reputable development brand and an operator brand as in a manager, and I'm known for producing, or my company's known, and I'm known as the head of that company, for producing real good quality accommodation, whether that's for professionals in residential apartments or students in student accommodation or co-living. If I get the brand known for those aspects on both sides, then things will always flow to us. I'd rather control both sides and have a control over the tenant, the resident experience.
Yeah.
How do they feel when they're in accommodation? Are they being looked after? Is the building being looked after? Do they have what they need? And I'd just, because of my lettings background as well, management background, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so it just made so much sense for me to keep it in-house and create a really great brand across both elements to a property development and operator business.
So not only are you making income from the tenants themselves, but obviously, just like with any building, appreciation.
Yeah.
As well. So
hopefully,
if you were to hold that building, hopefully. So if you were to hold that building for the next, let's give it 10 years time, how much do you have a prediction for what that will be worth?
10 years, it's hard to say. I mean, they say property values double on average every 10 years, 7 to 10 years, whether that's true. It's not true. It's an average rule that people use. It may not be the case, but it definitely go up the value.
So where it stands at 8 mil today, probably, let's just say minimum.
Well, 8 mil when it's done, yeah.
Yeah, probably like 12, 13 minimum.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay, so I guess you could flip it at that point then.
Yeah. do you know what? I'm pragmatic, you know, if a crazy offer came along, you take it. You don't need to squeeze the juice out of everything all the time. But the intention is to build a substantial portfolio and bigger sites where we can actually have, or we will have, colleagues on site managing the building and managing the residents. So at that size, we need to be at 400 apartments plus.
Yeah.
And so that's the next step.
Okay.
Some bigger ones.
You might as well build the whole uni as well.
Might as well.
No, you easily could.
Take a block at a time.
So let's talk more about something that actually makes all of this happen. Actually, head up in here. So at 20 years old, someone's got to have the initiative to, you know, take these steps, big risk steps, to say to a landlord, look, I want to take your building, I want to lease it for 5 years and I'll put tenants in there, yeah? So how do you, you tell me how your mindset works. I don't know how to explain this, but you tell me.
How does it work?
In a sense that what you know is going to work, what you know is not going to work, and what's going to make you money.
I look at the business, the model, and I think whether it makes sense and whether the risk is worth it.
Yeah.
I take a bet. Doing that there, taking on the rent to rents, didn't feel that risky because I already had experience of management. If I was starting from scratch and the first thing I was going to do is take on this property and rent from the landlord, then there's a lot more risk there. But I'd already managed and let properties, and if I didn't get it let, it was the landlord's problem, or more their problem. It would cost them, and if I did, I'd get paid.
Is managing a headache though? Because I know a couple of landlords and managers and stuff, and essentially you're the one who's got to deal with the tenant. You got to pick up the phone and say, something wrong with the boiler, the cold water's not working, hot water playing up. So isn't that more headache than being
a headache? It's only a headache, and it was only a headache for me when I didn't have a proper team to deal with it. After that, when I had a proper team, I had my own in-house maintenance guy that would, any maintenance problems, he'd go out and deal with it, usually same day or next day. The only time it's a problem is when you're not equipped to deal with that. So it was a problem, but it's because it was internally, and I think that's the problem. That's the case with most property companies. If it feels like a hassle, then you're not set up correctly. You don't have proper systems in place. You're not running your business properly, or you're at an awkward position, which I have been, where you're big enough that you need the help, but you're small enough that you can't afford it.
Okay.
So you're in this sort of limbo, trying to break through that barrier of just getting to enough money to employ people.
So how did you break through that barrier?
Well, I still had my lettings business going on. I still had the management going on, and then I took on the rent to rent. So I already was surviving basically.
Okay, fair enough.
So when I didn't have an in-house maintenance person as a letting management agent at that point, but when I started to take on a few rent to rents, then I got an in-house person. Maintenance became one of the biggest problems because we'd have our managed lets and then rent to rents, and then we'd use these maintenance people, and just reliability was just poor. Finding a really good maintenance person for a consistent period of time and a cleaner, those things were hard to do. They were hard to find good cleaners and management and maintenance people. And the the work would be right, they do it quickly to begin with, and the prices would be fine. Then it would just start to get a bit silly. They'd either take really long to come back or do it, or they'd take long to, or they'd try and charge more money. And it just, so when I started with in-house maintenance people, it changed what we did, changed the business big time. It was like
because now you're in control.
We're in control, so the tenants aren't saying we've got a leak.
Yeah.
I've had a leak or my door handle's been broken for a week now, 2 weeks, no one's come out. We're trying to get out same day.
You can do that now.
You can do that, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
You can do that when you're in that position.
You've got the power. You're the best of both worlds, because you not only now you're in a position where you can own the whole building, you're managing the building, you have the whole team running the building. So basically, anyone who's a tenant there is loving it, because things are dealt with proper, professionally and quickly.
And not just that. As an owner, we get to put quality stuff in, and know it's not gonna. It's quite unlikely for it to break or break down.
Yeah, of course,
because we got to maintain it as well. So we're not going to put in cheap stuff. Whereas if I've got a property on a rent to rent, that landlord's not coming back to refurb that house. That's done.
And there's no point in you refurbing it, because
it's hard for me to refurb it, because it's hard to get the money back out.
Yeah.
To justify that, but we got to a stage where we had enough money to start ploughing it back in, but that took a little while. And I just didn't want to get into that position again. This is why I wanted to get into my own ownership. I thought, well, I should benefit from the capital appreciation, benefit from paying down debt, and I've got the people in house to look after this anyway. So I should keep it that way and do a bigger building, because it makes more sense financially to manage that.
So, what's the next building? So right now, the biggest one you got is 70 flat.
70 flats. Yeah.
Are you looking at anything bigger than that right now?
Yeah, a few. I've got a 200-bed co-living scheme in Birmingham that I'm working on. I've got a mixed-use scheme that's about 150 apartments with commercial space to the ground floor. So that's a £35 million deal. Co-living one's probably early 20s.
Do you know what I want to ask you? I want to ask you something. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I think everyone has a figure of what they're happy with in terms of money in the pocket. Some people might say 1 million. Some people might say 50 or 100. What does yours look like?
I see someone just perk up then. I don't really have. I wouldn't say I've got a number.
Unlimited high amount. Sky's the limit ones.
No, I just think if I do what I'm supposed to do in terms of hit my goals, get the portfolio size that I think we can get, have a really great team, a happy team, a productive team, I think it will follow naturally. Yeah. I'm not looking to do any more deals really at the size that I'm currently doing. Just want to go bigger and bigger, whilst de-risking it where I can. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to take silly risks. Yeah. They're going to be very strategic and well thought out risks. If I do that properly and execute, then the money will follow. And it can't. If I do a £50 million deal, I'm not making $1 million out of it. I'll be making more than that. So I think I don't have an answer. Genuinely don't have an anscer. You think just do the job and it will follow. That's what I was just going to say. Literally do the job as it comes along, sort of thing. Yeah, it will follow. Fair enough. I don't need a lot of money. I don't need, and I don't think most people do. It's how excessive you want to be. Yeah. For me, it's just having a nice house and comfortable family members. You know, have a comfortable family. You know, when you say that, you said a nice house, I thought you were going to say nice car. And that brings me to, I think, one of the first times I come across you, you took a picture outside one of your construction sites with a Lamborghini. I love video. And then it was revealed like the day after that it wasn't your Lamborghini or something. Yeah. So what was all that about? Yeah, that was a funny reaction. So my friend came to visit me from London and brought his Lambo down. Yeah. And I just joked around with him. I said, I should probably post this and say it's my car. And he started to egg me on. And even at the end of the day, when he was going home, he was like, yeah, do it. I was like, if you watch the video, you see me smirking. Yeah, I've seen it, yeah. And I thought people would clock onto that. I thought people would know that, he's chatting shit. But anyway, so I put the video out and then it was a really good reaction, to be fair. I got like a big reaction from it. It was like really nice comments and people were buzzing over it. And then I put out another video saying, actually, it's not my Lambo, because I'm not going to leave that story. That's not me. I'm not even into cars like that, to be fair. I'm not even into cars like that. And I don't want people to think I've got a Lambo when I haven't, even though for me, it doesn't even mean anything. But for other people, it seems to be a massive deal. And I put another video out saying, it's not mine. And it's mad how people get
Excited.
go crazy over this car
Yeah.
when the site that the car was parked outside of my site is worth I don't know how much extra car.
Yeah.
So
Probably
like
10
this
times the
site
car.
that took more work and can buy me one of these cars gets
Yeah.
less love than the actual car, and some people like that message, and others some of the messages were
I think it was a wicked message because the mad thing with that picture specifically, if I remember it correctly,
it was a little video, wasn't it?
it was a video and a picture or something. I can't even remember, but it was literally the Lamborghini's parked right here, and behind that is the construction site. But then, don't you think at the same time that people might not have clocked that that's your construction site?
No, I said it was my site in the video.
Oh,
In the
is it?
same video, I said, "Here's my car.
Yeah.
Here's my site," and everyone's just going crazy about the car. And I've been posting my sites for a while, and it never had that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
And when I posted the car, it got a mad reaction. And so it's the car, it's not my site. Otherwise, the site would have got a mad reaction on its own. But some of the messages were hilarious. Some people were like, "Yeah, I love that message." Other people were like, "You're a prick for that."
What do you think? Down in your heart, what do you think? Do you think it's a good message that you gave out, or?
I would think so.
Yeah.
For me, but that speaks my truth. I don't think a car is success.
No, but you're right though, because in a sense, like the building can buy 10 of those Lamborghinis, but people don't see that. They just want the shiny metal.
That's my profit in the building.
Yeah.
That's my profit. Can buy 10.
Exactly.
But
Buy
no one
10.
looks at that. But I'm not into, maybe if I was into cars, it'd be something, but I don't really care about cars.
Fair enough. I wanna go back to one thing I pointed out. Yeah. So I was comparing the property prices from here in Birmingham to sites in London. Now, London is said to be one of the most expensive cities out in the world, but it could also be quite profitable if you're renting out.
Go big.
Yeah, but would you not think about going down to London, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely. I've looked at sites in London before. Nothing's come up like that works for me, but I'm game. In London, it would just have to be a very big project.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be going there to do 50 flats.
You would have
It'd
to
be
go
more like 500.
500.
But those sites are not easy to find.
Yeah,
The tough sites.
and they're probably very, very, very
They'll be
expensive
expensive,
compared
but
to
then
here as well.
you've got although it's expensive to get in there, build it, buy it, buy the land, the rest of it, that'll be very expensive, but then you make more money on the exit.
Yeah,
So you win both ways. Do you know what I mean?
it basically works out the same thing anyway then,
Yeah.
because the profit margin you got here is going to be the same profit margin you got there, but it's just going to be.
It'll be a bit less potentially in London because
Yeah.
you've got to accept that, but the figures, making 20% on 50 million or making 20% on 300 million is very different, isn't it?
Yeah, fair enough. What's your first step for someone getting into property?
I'd say first thing you need to work out is